Hi, I'm David Garfield. Today, I'm sitting with a wonderful artist, vocalist, songwriter, instrumentalist, and author, Mr. David Philp. We got together to work on a classic Beatles song, Strawberry Fields. Strawberry Fields Forever is actually the full title.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
When I was young growing up and a huge fan of the Beatles, every time they released a new song on the radio, we anxiously awaited hearing it. And we heard it the first time on the radio. I remember I was in Cape Cod in Massachusetts with my family. I was quite young. And my brother and I, when we heard Strawberry Fields for the first time, it had a hypnotic quality. There was something about the sound of the voice, the tempo, the depth of the drums, the lyric, just the whole production that made it very mysterious. And it really drew me in. Always loved this song. So all these years later, as a jazz artist, I was working with my band in Los Angeles in the 90s, great drummer Gregg Bissonette, who had been from North Texas State, which is one of the premier jazz band schools, and he had been in the Maynard Ferguson band, which was like Buddy Rich. He was premier on that circuit. He'd come to LA and we got to working together, and then he started shifting into the studio and he got with some rock bands, and then he was with David Lee Roth. But we continued to play jazz in the clubs of LA, and he was involved in my Los Lobotomies project. Greg just loved the Beatles. He was a huge Beatle fan, and he started a Beatles band called Four Lads from the Valley.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to. I grew up and am still the biggest Beatle fan I know. I love the Beatles. And when the great David Garfield, my dear pal, asked me to play drums on Strawberry Fields, what an honor. What an honor. I love the way it came out. And I'm just so grateful to David for so many musical opportunities I've been in with him over the years, and many more to come. But that one right there, Strawberry Fields, wow. That was super, super, super fun, and what an honor.
But I was always trying to figure out a way to get a Beatles song into our set. One day I came up with this idea for Strawberry Fields, and I decided to, change some of the chords, do some different things with it, extend certain sections. I was going to go in the studio to record with my favorite guys at the time, which was Michael Landau on guitar, John Peña on bass, Gregg Bissonette on drums, Luis Conte on percussion. The five of us went down to Chick Corea's Mad Hatter studio. I got 5 really good tracks, and this Strawberry Fields was one of them. So I kept it in the vault for years and never knew quite what to do with it. I did put it out a couple times instrumentally and some other versions, but when I had the pleasure of meeting you, David, you right away took to this song, and I said, and I was working on it at the time, and I said, boy, it would be great if you'd sang this. And the first time I came over here to your studio, and we were
I remember
getting to know each other, and I was working on this song, and I played it for you, and right away I could see the bells rang and your eyes lit up, and I could see you almost singing along. I said, this would be great if you get involved on this.
Yeah, I had a similar experience for when I first heard Strawberry Fields Forever. It was hypnotic and it was different. The first psychedelic song was probably Syd Barrett 6 months earlier than
From
that.
Pink Floyd?
Yeah, Arnold Lane and See Emily Play, predated Strawberry Fields, but John did it in his own way. It's a very, very John song. When I heard your version, I got it. I was excited to be involved in it because apart from anything else, all the guys that I've played with have been bar bands that got good, but they weren't like session guys. And, incredible musicians like you and Greg and Michael and John Peña.
Well, when I really could tell that you took a liking to the track.
Oh yeah, I knew where I was going to go with that.
You heard the track and you got an idea for how to approach it differently. And so we've done 2 versions of it. One version, which is more long and musical, is on our Vox Outside the Box CD. But then after we did this, you came to me with an idea for doing a more radio-friendly, shortened version with some cool edits. And I think we actually sped up the tempo maybe a little bit.
I think we did, yeah. Sometimes it's editing, that changes something, and all of a sudden, whoomp, you've got something different.
Of course, oh yeah.
And when I sang it, I tried to sing it kind of like in a John Lennon sort of way, with a slight slurring. I think we got something special. I mean, I still get messages on social media saying, I like your and David Garfield's version of Strawberry Fields more than the original. And I think, no, you cannot say that. That is heresy.
You can't say that.
But, obviously it struck a chord. It went to like number 17 in the Heritage chart, and people are still playing it.
You said that Ringo heard it?
Well, that's what Gregg told me. He said he was on a plane with, because he plays with Ringo. Yeah. Richie said, go ahead, play it. And so he played it to Richie, and he said, oh, that's nice. No,
there you go. So we're going to do this version of Strawberry Fields together. And we decided, after you heard it, and I was working on it, we decided that you would collaborate with me. And so it took a whole new spin. The song took really a whole different direction. And we did your vocals here in this room, in your studio. And we did a couple of sessions together, coming up with some different approaches. And then we decided we need to bring in Will Lee. Will being another diehard Beatles fan, just like Gregg, and he has this band called the Fab Four. And they're one of the premier Beatle bands that perform Beatles music just to the T. It takes 5 of them to do the Fab Four, They do it live. And
that's a discount.
I brought the tapes to New York. Actually, they're files now on a hard drive. And I went into Will's studio, which is called the Beatles Museum, and had him do a whole bunch of stackings. We did some really cool backwards things and got into the spirit of it.
I played on David Garfield's arrangement of Strawberry Fields a few times live, and when he finally asked me to come and sing on a new version of it, I jumped at the chance because being a huge Beatles fan, it was not a huge stretch for me to want to get involved. And once he got David Philp's vocal down, that was a game changer because it really gave that song its own special place in the sonic world. I really enjoyed being a part of that.
Today I'm sitting here with Ms. Jo Nagle. She is one of our newer performers on Creechy Records, who has been on a couple of songs we've done in the role of the backing vocal. And it's nice to have you here today, Jo.
It's so great to be here. Thanks for asking me to do this.
Well, we're talking about the song Strawberry Fields, and this production was quite extensive. We laid many vocal tracks together. I'd like you to first tell me about your first introduction to the Beatles in your life.
My first introduction to the Beatles, I had moved from Texas to Connecticut when I was younger. And my next door neighbor, his name is Randall Benichek. He's now a composer in New York. He was in love with the Beatles, and he played guitar, and he was really interested in music in general. And we got along really well because we were both interested in music. I played piano and I sang, and so we actually would get together and play music, and he's the one that showed me the songs.
He went to school with you?
Yeah, we went to elementary school together, yeah.
What grade?
This is when I started, it was 2nd grade.
So in the 2nd grade, you were in elementary school performing Beatles music already.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what was your first instrument?
Singing, my voice, I'd say vocal. And then my first instrument outside of that was piano.
Keyboards, guitars, drums, production, vocals, songwriting.
Bass guitar as well.
Bass too. I'm quite a few years older than you, so I'm always interested to hear people's introduction to the Beatles. So what did you think about the Beatles when you started listening to them?
I was so blown away. I absolutely loved them. I had come from a lot of rock background, but it was like Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, and then Guns N' Roses, and getting a little bit later. When it came to the Beatles, like I said, my neighbor had introduced me to them, and he was introducing me to songs like I Am the Walrus, and that was especially a really cool introduction because it's such a unique style. To me, it was like so beyond anything I'd heard before. It didn't seem very usual. And then realizing how old the song was, I felt like they touched the part of me that was against, the norm, because this just sounded so different.
What was it like for you to work on the Strawberry Fields recording with us? Tell us about that.
It's really exciting for me. Working with you is exciting because it's David Garfield. He's worked with all of these people. He does all this music, super talented. Everything always sounds amazing. The music that you come out with, I'm like, this is quality, like quality music. And that's super exciting already. It was also coming like on the tail end of us working on the Let It Snow single. So I was already like excited to have that. And then to be able to do backing vocals on this track that then also has like Gregg Bissonette. And then it's going to have like David Philp. And it's, all these different people that I'm like, I can't believe I get to be part of that. Then on the other part of it is that as a singer, my favorite thing is backing vocals. Everybody sings along to the radio. They sing the lead parts. I'm the backing vocalist.
Well, we really went to town with this because we almost turned it into like your vocal stacks like a keyboard. The arrangement had some clusters, tone clusters, and especially in this section that we added. It's not part of the original song. It's a section I added for Gregg to play, but some of the notes stay the same. Some of them change. Some of them are right next to each other. So I think we ended up with something like 18 or 24 tracks of your vocals there.
Yeah.
And some of them just stayed on one note, others went here and changed. I even, after the fact, took one of your parts and changed it to create an additional note that I forgot to get from you. But it seemed to blend in pretty nice, you know?
Oh, I loved the end product. I thought it sounded really cool, like a pad that you had created. It was really fun.
Strawberry fields, strawberry fields, let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to strawberry fields, strawberry fields, nothing is real.
On Strawberry Fields, we feature one of the great guitar players of our time, Michael Landau. And I know you've worked with him in other situations. Could you give us some feedback on Michael Landau and what he represents to you?
Michael Landau has this taste that he could be playing almost the same thing and it still fits in these different places. Like it could fit in rock, it could fit in jazz, it can fit in pop. But it's such a signature, like, oh, that's Landau playing. Like when I hear his guitar on recording, I know exactly that it's him. It's so signature, but also appropriate for whatever the song is.
It's always been the case. You always knew when Mike was playing. And then there was a time when other guitar players were copying. There was a lot of copying of his settings, his sounds and styles. So he eventually changed what he did to stay ahead of the pack. His style developed and his gear changed, his choice of sounds changed. But when you watch him play, sometimes you can barely tell that he's playing, right?
Yeah. Oh, he's so chill.
When I first saw Michael play in the Still Life band in Steve Porcaro's garage, he would play these shredding solos, but you couldn't even tell he was playing. He was so still. After we did the version of Strawberry Fields with David, he decided that we could do even a more streamed down version, cut down version for the British radio and Radio Caroline, those networks that he has been featured on. So that last version of the song got quite a bit of airplay and still being played to this day. We're so thrilled you could be a part of that. And we look forward to having you involved in more of the projects here at Creechy.
Thanks, David. I look forward to it too.
The music business is something that we're passionate about. We've done it our whole life. And, to take a Beatles song is a very touchy thing. You don't want to put out a Beatles song just any old way.
No. And I think, what? We got it right. When I say we, I mean mostly you. But that record is a really good record.
And keep in mind that some of these instruments were recorded many years ago on 2-inch tape and then transferred over to Pro Tools. The rest of it was added later and put together. But the biggest excitement for me was all the vocal textures from Will, from you, from Alex, from Amanda, putting them all together, created almost like the sound of an instrument, and then your voice on top of it.
Was Michael Landau's guitar recorded on tape originally?
Yeah, exactly.
I can kind of hear that now.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I hear that.
Yeah.
Such a great solo.
I'll tell you a great story about this. When we were working on Strawberry Fields, and I keep going, I swear, when we cut the tracks, the original tracks, Luis was playing percussion. So I know that there was a couple of microphones on percussion, but I'm looking at the original tracks and there's no percussion. And so it was kind of confusing me. Then at the end of the track, I heard a percussion instrument. And I go, where did that come from? And I went through every track in the session, and then I saw that the percussion didn't work out, so we had recorded over the percussion tracks acoustic guitars, actually with Mike Miller, another wonderful guitarist here in LA. I go, well, I found at the end of the track, I heard this little percussion, and then I realized that the tracks that I had were all faded out, and they all ended at a certain place. And I thought, was there anything more to this? And I undid the fades, and I found lost tape. 32 bars of shredding at the end with Mike on guitar. I deleted the fades, and the whole thing, I gained all this extra. And that was for our version that was previously unknown to be on that recording session. Wonderful experience to have you come in and be a part of our project, not just with your singing, but with your ideas and your experience. Really made Strawberry Fields something very special that I'm proud of.
Well, you should be proud of it. I mean, it was your baby, and I was happy to get a go at it. Because I understood, I understood what it was you wanted, and that's musical communication. And at the end of the day, isn't that, what it's all about? So, it was an honor for me, and, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to our music and supporting us. Strawberry Fields has been one of our favorite songs at our live shows, and we hope you enjoy the various recorded versions we have, and that you tune in to one of our concerts online and we'll perform it for you.
Throw money.